Eels have been consumed in Japan for millennia, cherished as a delicacy that holds deep cultural significance. However, in recent years, the eel trade has become a point of contention on the global stage. A proposal by the European Union, Panama and Honduras seeks to list all 17 species of eels worldwide under the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, also known as CITES. If successful, this proposal would enforce strict regulations on the international eel trade, possibly affecting how eels are consumed across the globe. Japan, where eel is a highly prized food, has been firmly opposed to the proposal. The Japanese government argues that it does not account for the latest scientific studies on eel populations, particularly the recent findings from Tokyo University of Marine Science and Technology. According to this research, the eel population in East Asia, particularly Japan, has tripled since 1990. This significant rebound has led Japan to feel that it has made sufficient conservation efforts on its own. The proposal to list all eel species as endangered would treat all eels the same, despite the varied conservation status across different regions. The Japanese government points out that such an approach lacks a scientific basis, as it does not differentiate between countries with strong conservation practices, such as Japan, and those where eel populations are more threatened. Tetsuya Kawashima, an official at Japan's fisheries agency, explains that Japan's opposition to the proposal is based on a belief that it would have negative consequences on the country's fishing industry, particularly its eel farming practices. Since the 1990s, Japan has implemented fishing quotas and farming permits to regulate eel production. These measures are aimed at ensuring that eel populations remain stable while still allowing for its continued consumption, which remains a staple of Japanese cuisine. Japanese eel dishes such as unagi, grilled eel served over rice, are deeply embedded in the nation's culinary traditions. For many, eating eel is more than just a meal. It's an experience that connects them to their cultural roots. However, as the international trade in eels has grown, so have concerns about the long-term sustainability of eel populations. Andrew Kerr, the chairman of the Sustainable Eel Group, has raised alarms about the rapid growth in the trafficking of eels, particularly glass eels, which are young eels captured in their transparent juvenile form. Kerr believes that illegal trafficking and overconsumption threaten the long-term stability of eel populations, particularly as demand from both East Asia and Europe increases. He points to alarming statistics, noting that up to 350 million individual eels are trafficked each year from Europe alone. The situation in the Caribbean is even more concerning, with traffic estimates putting the volume at over 100 tons annually. Despite these troubling figures, Kerr is careful to stress that the goal is not to eliminate eel consumption, but to strike a balance that ensures the species' survival. He argues that it is crucial to maintain a sustainable relationship with eels, one that allows people to continue enjoying this delicacy while ensuring that future generations will also be able to do so. Kerr likens the situation to a relationship of mutual respect, where consumption is kept in balance with conservation. The scale of illegal eel trafficking is staggering. The numbers involved are often hard to grasp, with estimates suggesting that tens of millions of glass eels are being trafficked annually. These young eels are often taken from the wild, sold at exorbitant prices, and transported across borders for use in both farming and direct consumption. The situation is made worse by the fact that glass eels are highly difficult to track due to their size and transparency. This has led some experts to describe eel trafficking as the largest wildlife crime of a living creature. The trade of eels is now considered a major environmental threat, not just to Japan, but to eel populations around the world. Despite these concerns, eels remain a beloved dish in Japan, and their cultural significance cannot be overstated. For many Japanese, eel is a symbol of resilience, a food that has been enjoyed for generations. At the Hiranuma Eel Farm restaurant in Kamisato, customers continue to flock in to savor their eel dishes, undeterred by the rising concerns over sustainability. For Yukiko Takahashi, a regular at the restaurant, eating eel is more than just a meal. It's a tradition that connects her to her heritage. She remarks that even if the price of eel increases, she would still want to keep eating it. The act of enjoying eel, she says, is something that makes her work harder and appreciate life more. For Takahashi and many others, eel is a special food that brings joy and comfort, a reminder of the cultural richness of Japan's food traditions. It's a delicacy that has been enjoyed for centuries, and its place in Japanese society is unlikely to change. However, with the global pressures of conservation and sustainability growing, Japan faces a difficult challenge in balancing tradition with environmental responsibility. As the debate over the international trade of eels continues, the question remains, how can the world preserve this beloved creature while ensuring that future generations can continue to enjoy it? Japan's response is clear. The country has worked hard to ensure the sustainability of eel populations and has taken significant steps to regulate its domestic eel trade. However, it remains steadfast in its opposition to the blanket approach proposed by the EU and other nations, which it sees as both scientifically flawed and detrimental to its own conservation efforts. Looking ahead, it's clear that this issue will not be resolved easily. As demand for eel continues to grow and as conservation efforts intensify, the balance between cultural heritage and environmental sustainability will become ever more critical. In the coming years, the global community will need to find a solution that respects both the need for conservation and the deep cultural ties that countries like Japan have to this remarkable species. For now, Japan's eel industry remains one of the largest in the world, and the country's approach to eel conservation will continue to be a point of contention on the international stage. The future of the eel as both a food and a species lies in a delicate balance, and whether Japan's objections to the CITES proposal will be heard by the global community remains to be seen. What is certain, however, is that the fate of the eel is now at the crossroads of tradition and conservation, and how the world chooses to address this issue will determine the future of this iconic creature. On the other hand, the EU proposal does not take into account the latest scientific studies or the conservation efforts undertaken by each country. It treats all eel species worldwide as one group subject to trade restrictions. We believe this approach lacks scientific basis, and that's why the Japanese government opposes it. We are very concerned that with the enormous growth in eel trafficking, that it threatens the long-term stability of eel populations. And we therefore want to protect eel. We want to continue to be able to enjoy it. And therefore, the level of consumption needs to be in balance and maintained in balance so that that relationship with eel can continue. It's the largest wildlife crime of a living creature, and that's based on the numbers. So from Europe, we were talking about 350 million individual eels each year. From the Caribbean now, we're talking about way more than that. Traffic estimates it at 100 tons from the Caribbean. And as you've got 5,000 or 6,000 glass eels in a kilo compared to 3,000 in a European eel kilo, that's twice the number. Even if the price of eel goes up, I'd still want to keep eating it. It's something that makes you say, I'll work hard so I can enjoy this. Today, I came here with friends to cheer ourselves up by eating eel. That's what makes it so meaningful for us.